Welcome to Consultier Inc. and Interlink IQ. To conduct a document review utilizing the Food Fraud Program under the SQF Module 2.7.2, first check if the document title matches the uploaded file name on the dashboard. In this instance, we do have the same titles as the Food Fraud Program. Next, both must have the same document codes. For this example, we do have 2.7.2. And since this is a template, we indicate the PCQI as the account initials. However, we can customize the code based on the company's initials. For the page number, we use the page XFY format, ensure that it reflects the current page position and the total page number of the document. Then insert the company logo here, together with the company name, the company address, and enter the designated department. For the originated by section, it can be the food safety, quality assurance, or the quality control personnel of the company. The originator ensures the implementation of the quality management and document control system. Enter the name of the originator, affix the signature, input the position title, and the date originated. For the reviewed by section, it can be the personnel assigned in the Quality Management Department who reviews the drafted document or its revision for accuracy and implementation. Enter the name of the reviewer, affix the signature, input the position title, and the date reviewed. For the approved by section, it must be the person in the C-level management who has approval authority. Enter the name of the approver, affix the signature, input the position title, and the date approved. The revision date is the same as the date originated or drafted by the author. For the effective date, it is the date the document was signed and approved. The publication date is when the document is published for distribution and initiated personnel training. The implementation date is when the document is distributed and personnel training is completed. For the supersedes, put original for the initial issuance of the document. For any revisions, reflect the initial revision date before the current revision. Please be reminded that this section must be properly filled out to be compliant. Now we will focus on the components of the program. First is purpose. The purpose is the implementation of any certification standard or compliance with a regulatory requirement. For this program, it is for implementation with the SQF Module 2 Edition 9 for food manufacturing under Clause 2.7.2. First, to implement SQF 2.7.2.1, the methods, responsibility, and criteria for identifying the site's vulnerability to food fraud, including susceptibility to raw material or ingredient substitution, finished product mislabeling, dilution, or counterfeiting, shall be documented, implemented, and maintained. 2. To implement SQF 2.7.2.2, a food fraud mitigation plan shall be developed and implemented that specifies the methods by which the identified food fraud vulnerabilities shall be controlled, including identified food safety vulnerabilities of ingredients and materials. 3. To implement SQF 2.7.2.3, instruction shall be provided to all relevant staff on the effective implementation of the food fraud mitigation plan. And lastly, to implement SQF 2.7.2.4, the Food Fraud Vulnerability Assessment and Mitigation Plan shall be reviewed and verified at least annually, with gaps and corrective actions documented. Records of reviews shall be maintained. The second component of the program is scope. The scope of the program is based on the purpose and serves as a guide in defining and describing the layout of the procedure. It includes the methods, the vulnerability assessment, the mitigation plan, like prevention, detection, and mitigation strategies, the review and verification, and the records. Next to scope is policy. The policies are the rules set by the company as their implementation guide. First, the risks, vulnerabilities of food fraud strategy sites are identified. Second, the corrective and preventive actions mitigation strategies of food fraud strategy sites are determined. And third, the plan records are reviewed, verified and maintained. Next, policy is procedure. The procedure is the step-by-step process and the actual implementation of the policy. Under procedure, first is methods. Raw materials, ingredients, packaging materials, and finished products will be assessed for vulnerability to food fraud. Methods used for assessment are the likelihood of a food fraud occurring and the potential consequences of a food fraud. Under likelihood, first is very unlikely, which is considered to be low risk. Unlikely, considered to be low risk to medium risk. Action is needed with occasional monitoring to mitigate the risk. Fairly likely, medium risk. Action is needed with occasional monitoring to mitigate the risk. Likely, medium risk. Action is needed with occasional monitoring to mitigate the risk to high risk. Urgent action is required, and regular monitoring may be needed. Very likely or certain. High risk. Urgent action is required, and regular monitoring may be needed. Next is consequences. First, negligible, which is considered to be low risk. Minor, which is considered to be low risk to medium risk. Action is needed with occasional monitoring to mitigate the risk. Moderate, medium risk. Action is needed with occasional monitoring to mitigate the risk. Next, significant, medium risk. Action is needed with occasional monitoring to mitigate the risk to high risk. Urgent action is required and regular monitoring may be needed. Next is severe, high risk. Urgent action is required and regular monitoring may be needed. Next methods is vulnerability assessment. Below are the assessment of the likelihood that food fraud will affect the material. First, historic incidents. Is the material one that has been implicated in previous incidences of food fraud? Second, emerging concerns. Have there been any recent alerts or news about food fraud for the material? Third, size of market. Does the international market for the material have a large monetary value? Fourth, price. Is the material an expensive material? Fifth, price fluctuations. Is the price of the material subject to frequent large fluctuations? Sixth, trading properties. Is the material traded on specific properties? Seventh, geographic origins. Is the material sourced from countries or regions that are politically unstable or very poor? Eighth, the complexity of the supply chain. Do you consider the supply chain of the material to be more complex and or long? Ninth, ease of access to material. Is the supply chain a type that allows multiple points of entry for fraudulent material? 10th, supply chain audits. Is the supply chain audited by your business or by third parties? And 11th, routine testing. Is the material subject to routine authenticity tests? Next is the assessment of the consequences of food fraud. First, characterizing ingredient. Is the material a characterizing ingredient of any product? Second, micro-ingredient. Is the ingredient used only in very small amounts, always less than 1% of the product? Third, allergens. Is the material used in products that are allergen-free or marketed with free-form allergen-related claims, which includes gluten? Fourth, other economic considerations. Are there any other economic considerations to include? And fifth, consequences or severity. Consequences of food fraud within the supply chain for this product group. Third under procedure is the mitigation plan. Under mitigation plan is prevention and deterrence, which includes the supplier approval program, the approved materials program, the authenticity verifications such as COA, letter of guarantee, the certificate of conformance, and the product specifications. Next is the materials receiving program, followed by country of origin, allergen control program, the authenticity validation such as nutrition, chemistry, and chemical testing, and lastly, is the hazards testing, such as biological, chemical, and physical. Second, under mitigation plan is detection, which includes the authenticity validation, such as the nutrition testing, the chemical testing, the FTIR or the Fourier transform infrared spectroscopy, the nuclear magnetic resonance spectroscopy, and the differential scanning calorimetry. It also includes the country of origin, the allergen control, and the hazards testing such as biological, chemical, and physical. Next is the mitigation strategies, which includes the documentation verification such as raw material specifications, COA, the letter of guarantee, and the certificate of conformance. It also includes the analytical surveillance, the supplier relationships such as third-party audits, and the certifications. Also the supplier audits, and the supplier transparency and simplification. Fourth, under procedure is review and verification, which includes review. Annual review of all material vulnerability assessment and when changes to the approved material occur. Next is verification. Verification of material integrity shall be conducted on as needed basis or per customer's requests, utilizing the mitigation plan noted above. Lastly, under procedure is records. Vulnerability assessment records shall be maintained by the QA or QC department and shall be reassessed on an annual basis or when changes to the approved material occur or product specifications or per customer's request. Fifth is responsibility. The responsibility of the person is indicated. It covers what to perform to comply with the procedure or the policy. For all personnel shall adhere to this policy. For the food safety team lead, the PCQI or the SQF practitioner, to ensure and verify this policy and procedure is adhered to, and to take corrective action to ensure compliance with this policy. For the food safety team lead, the PCQI or SQF practitioner, to visually inspect areas for compliance with this policy, to oversee compliance of procedure, to ensure personnel is trained on this policy and procedures, and to monitor and take corrective action to ensure compliance with this policy. For the production personnel, to apply the acquired relevant training. For the human resources, to conduct relevant trainings for all personnel. For the purchasing or receiving personnel, to ensure the quality and authenticity of purchased raw materials. And for the food safety team lead, the PCQI or SQF practitioner, to validate training and adherence to policy and procedure. To monitor and document nonconformance observation is also known as discrepancy using corrective and preventive action form. To document control, records, and archive. To monitor the vulnerability assessment and implementing the prevention, detection, and mitigation strategies. To maintain vulnerability assessment records. And to reassess records on an annual basis or when changes to the approved material occur or product specifications or per customer's request. The sixth component of the program is corrective action. The corrective action is the process of taking appropriate steps to eliminate causes of nonconformities or other undesirable situations. In the event of suspected or actual incidences of food fraud in the facility, review and revise the mitigation plan and vulnerability assessment, realign the supplier approval process, and retrain all related personnel on this policy. Seventh is review quality department. The review section serves as guidelines for conducting the annual or periodic review. 1. There is awareness within the senior management of the need for a food fraud vulnerability assessment and mitigation strategies. 2. There is a current, documented vulnerability assessment in place that identifies key ingredient vulnerabilities, including the justification for their inclusion. The methodology for selecting the key ingredient vulnerabilities shall be available. 3. The vulnerability assessment shall include an evaluation of the site vulnerabilities, including from staff, contractors, and other associates. Fourth, there is documented mitigation strategies in place for all identified vulnerabilities, which identify what is to be done and who is responsible. Fifth, the mitigation strategies are active and are being reviewed for effectiveness. Sixth, the vulnerabilities and mitigation strategies are reviewed at least annually. And seventh, there are records available of review of the food fraud program. Eighth is reference documents. The reference documents are the set of documents used to implement and monitor a program, policy, or procedure. It includes the Vulnerability Assessment Form, the HACCP or Food Safety Plan, the Supplier Approval Program, Certificate of Analysis, Letter of Guarantee, Certificate of Conformance, and the Product Specifications. Ninth is References. The reference section is composed of guides utilized to implement the program. Examples are the Certification Guide, regulations, and other widely accepted scientific journals, research, and the like. It must comply with the standard format citation, which can be based on either MLA, APA, or the Chicago style, and update the access date. Lastly, history. The history section is where we can update the program if there are any changes or revisions made in the document. If there is a revision, enter the revision number, followed by the revision date, the description of the change made, the name of the author or the originator, and the title or department of the author or the originator. Thank you for participating in this document review. Content presented are for training purposes only and are based on the interpretation of standards and best practices and must be customized for your intended use. To fully customize your programs, policies, procedures, forms for records, and lessons for training, you may contact Interlink IQ or Consultier Inc. at services@interlinkiq.com or simply call 202-982-3002. For free access, visit interlinkiq.com.